And we are back with Gavin Stone. I was planning to release a video with Gavin on Richard Gadd. We just recently covered the Fiona Harvey interview with Piers Morgan in 3 parts, a very long session because there was so much going on in there. And we will be releasing something on Richard Gadd as well, letting everybody know it won't be nearly as long as Fiona Harvey. There's just not as much there to play with. But in between, a very, very famous superstar, rapper, billionaire, well, he got caught up in a bit of a snag. This would be the artist with a given name of Sean Combs, who has a whole line of other names: Puff Daddy, Puff Diddy, Diddy, P. Diddler, but I don't know if P. Diddler is something he gave himself or others gave to him. But he's been in a spot of trouble, some people calling him the next Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what's very interesting is he has been under a lot of controversy, so much so that in December of 2023, he released this post on his Instagram. And if you look at this right here, what do you think of it, Gavin?
I think it's really interesting. From the very beginning, he's going from the last couple of years. I have watched as people silently try to assassinate my character. Very kind of specific choice of words there. That he's not talking about somebody that's kind of slating him. We're not talking about rumors and tittle tattle. That's very specific.
Okay, and it was the last couple of weeks, not years.
Oh, sorry, last couple of weeks. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm thinking ahead.
Well, hopefully the next couple, he's going to be under a lot of duress over the next couple of years. But what's very interesting is he brought out that post and he essentially was saying, hey, everybody is picking on me. What is going on here? You're trying to smear my reputation, etc. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take him at face value. But then over the last few days, a video was leaked and got to CNN. And I showed the video to Gavin before the show. And if you follow me on X at Hunley Eric, you will see that I have the video posted there. I cannot post the video on YouTube because it is very, very bad. It goes against YouTube standards. It involves things that are done that I can't even use the words on YouTube. But let's just say that it is impossible to interpret that video as anything other than a criminal act against another person, in my opinion. Gavin, you watched it. Am I exaggerating?
Not at all. No, it's something that you certainly wouldn't want. If it was happening to your toddler or your grandma, you'd be diving in there, and it's not something that is in any way acceptable, in my opinion. Trying to choose my words carefully.
Yes, because of YouTube, but I think everybody will get the point. If it is your daughter, who could be an adult, and this is somebody's daughter, by the way, who was put in a was harmed. Mm-hmm. I will just say that. She was blatantly, clearly harmed on video. I've looked at it every way. I've tried to find any excuse. I do not see any marker to where self-defense could even be there. She was headed away from him. He chased her down, conducted the activities. When she was down, he did more. Clearly, I mean, it is clearly the only question that could come up about that video is, are you sure it is him? Because it was at a distance, and my thought was, well, it was hotel security. You could always get the timestamps of the of the cameras and the video, match it to who had the room rented at the time, and narrow it down and say, yes, that was him. But the guesswork has been taken out of it. And Diddy on Sunday, or yesterday, we are recording this on May 20th, 2024, released a video addressing this situation. And here we go.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
So I think we have now confirmed that he was the other individual in that video, correct?
Oh, yes, I'd say that's pretty about as certain as you're going to get.
And we will go into this and break it down, but I have trouble with this apology already. It was labeled as "I'm truly sorry," I believe, on the Instagram post. He does everything on Instagram, I guess. I don't see him acknowledging another person. I hear him talking about himself, that he was messed up. He hit rock bottom. He had problems. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, I don't think he's the victim.
No. Not from the video I saw. And just, like you say, is to start off with there, it's very self-indulgent and kind of centered with his exactly what he said so far. And then the other thing is it's unusual choice of the words on that video. Not what I'd done, not what happened, not the incident itself or the harm he's caused to another person, but the actions on that video. It's almost like nothing else counts, nothing else matters, but I got caught there on that, and that's what I'm trying to bring the focus on, that bit where I got caught, and I'm sorry.
But not even, almost like he's a third person, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like as if he's his own brother. Like if I saw a video of you doing something, I would say that video of Gavin.
Exactly, which in itself, it's a kind of distancing, kind of he's not saying that was me or what I did was wrong. He's saying, the actions on that video, almost like he's talking about, like you say, like another person, like a third person.
That guy over there.
Exactly.
Now, he could be a person that talks about himself in third person. I don't know.
Not so far.
But not so far. Not so far. But I just want to say that it immediately reads, I personally would not be satisfied at this point with the apology. It's not quite to the level of "I'm sorry you feel bad."
Yeah, I'm going to say that's the only way it could possibly be worse. The other thing is, at the point he says the words "that video," there is a momentary look of disgust that I've sent you the freeze frames for, which are really, really difficult to get. It was so fleeting. But you might be able to back it up just a touch and just play, but you'll see like a little bit of a twitch as you're looking at the video, his left cheek. That's when it's starting, just there, and I managed to pause it and clip it just as that look of disgust was starting, and it was so fleeting that when we went to the next clip, which was less than like kind of probably a tenth of a second than before, it had gone. That was how fast the micro expression was.
It makes sense now. Now, I want to cover that for a second, because can you explain the difference? Because this is borderline disgust and contempt.
It very is. So the issue I have with this, what I'll do, if I just say first that I'm not so sure he's disgusted with the actions of what he sees on the video. I think it's more the disgust that the video has got itself out there or managed to get out there into the public domain. And I think that's where the body language is coming from for that, more so than kind of disgusted with the actions, disgusted that the video's even been on display and that he's seen it in the first place. The contempt side of it, I think that is a bit of a, I thought I'd got away with this, and and I'm kind of annoyed, but I think I'm still going to be able to pull this out the bag.
So I was right. It's almost both expressions. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's continue on.
I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted.
He agrees. He's disgusted.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you something. He takes full responsibility for his actions in that video. How can he not? He did it. He's not, again, so for somebody who's self-indulgent, saying, I was at a bad time in my life, he's not turning around and said, I did something that was wrong. He's not saying, that was me, I did those actions. It's almost distancing again with like kind of I take like there was any other option, other than taking responsibility for what he did. It's a little bit unusual in my opinion there, the choice of words.
I'm going to push back and I'm going to say I actually don't think he is. I think that when he said I take full responsibility, didn't you just say that you were messed up, that you hit rock bottom, that you were this? That to me is like, these are mitigation factors, right? We're messed up, fucked up, rock bottom, all that. That's pulling it away. That's not saying I did this and then this is why. No, he's just going right to that. Again, it reads like he was a victim to start. Yeah. And now he's saying, I take full responsibility. But is he really?
Well, the other thing you've got to ask yourself, is this apology video in itself a way of putting out there, look, I had drugs or I had this or I was intoxicated or that was going on in my life. So that by the time or if it ever gets to any kind of court case or anything like that, he's got diminished responsibility on his side.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's pretty calculated. Yeah. Let's continue.
I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
That was interesting. You see, when he said there, I had to ask God for his mercy and grace, and then there's this look up and right, and there's this big gulp that he said right after, the big gulp that he swallowed right after. And again, we've discussed this kind of thing before about gulping and the relations to kind of it not being necessarily true or with you being nervous. There's no reason for him to be nervous here. This is an apology video, not a confession. So there's no need for that gulp to be there where it is, unless his mouth is drying out because of the fact that there's cortisol flowing through him right now.
That could be. And by the way, it's very interesting. He went through these things. Let's see if he went to a psychiatrist, right? He went, or a therapist, went to the church. Okay. This is his acknowledging or dealing with what happened. Let's see if he did anything else. Let's see if he, paid penance in any other way.
I'm so sorry.
Can you pause it there again?
But I'm committed to be a better man.
So as he said sorry there, I think it was that one where you've got again that very, very fleeting micro expression of what's known in the trade as Duper's delight. It's a little bit of a start of a smile that you get when you think you've pulled the wool over someone's eyes, and that I've frozen in the pictures that I sent you in 1 and 2. Again, it's very, very fleeting. But if we go to picture number 1, that was when I managed to pause it when he said the word sorry. Does that, in your opinion, look like the face of a man that's sorry, or does that look like the face of a man who's just trying to fight a smile? Right? Look at his mouth and his teeth. Does that look like a sad expression?
No, it definitely doesn't. Now it is mid-turn, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, it is interesting.
And that's the second one, which was after he'd said sorry. And again, I know the mouth is faced down here, which we normally would associate with sadness, but it's almost like a smirk. It's almost like he's trying to fight the urge to smile here and continue to look sad. And again, you have to remember with these things, they are micro expressions because they are sometimes as little as 1/100th of a second. They flash by so quickly. It's so easily to miss them. It was difficult, like I say, just to get these freeze frames. There we go.
Like a catching of himself.
yeah, exactly. You've probably seen things in the past where people have said something and then afterwards gone, and done that, and it's a very similar kind of thing. You catch yourself smiling and you go back to your emotionless kind of face.
I'm so sorry.
It is so tight in there.
Sorry.
It's really difficult to catch. So, and the other thing is,
I'm sorry.
Interesting that he uses the use of the word God at the end of the therapy, the rehab, and I sort out God, and it's almost like kind of saying, look, what more can I do than that? I did therapy, I did rehab, I even went to God. I mean, you're not going to get any higher than God, are you? Really? Let's face it. So it's almost saying, look, I've done everything that you could possibly do to try and fix this. But the truth of the matter, did he, or is he just saying these things?
I would also throw in the use of God, which did get the cult, by the way, because in a lot of the Black community, God is very important. Yeah. And he needed to throw that in there. It's like therapy is one thing, but are you right with God, if you will? It's taking a little further.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I don't know for sure if it's calculated. I can never, get in a man's heart, but I will say that it is probably beneficial,
Without doubt,
to a message.
Yeah. I've heard it many, many times while I've been over in the States. You need Jesus, or when people have been shouted at and that kind of thing. So, it does kind of give that message of, look, I'm trying, I'm going to where I need to go.
And also, like you were saying there, it's between me and God in some ways. But I think somebody else was in the area at the time. It wasn't God.
Yeah.
There's somebody else as well. I mean, God is everywhere, but I think somebody else is here. Was the name Cassie? Something like that? I don't know.
But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness.
That was almost like a time lapse.
Yeah.
The Big Paw's like, did you get that? But I'm committed to be, and he was like almost rushing that out. Like, okay, I'm past that. I'm done talking about
speed up, get past it, and to the next bit. Yeah.
I'm truly sorry.
And there we go. Very interesting.
Wow. So, first question, Eric. From that video and that video alone, what was he actually sorry for? What was he apologizing for?
Being caught.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Honestly, well, the thing is, he was saying that I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, right? What is the one thing he did not do?
He didn't actually seem to, in my opinion, apologize and mention the person's name who was on the receiving end of his actions.
That for sure. Cassie was completely not acknowledged. But what about, okay, he went to a therapist. He went to church. How about prison?
Yeah.
I think prison might have worked, right? Like maybe, that was 2016, it's 2024. Maybe if he was in the can for a few years, he could say, and I served time. He seemed to serve himself. Yeah. But how about serving time?
That would certainly send him a message.
And maybe I'm a little harsh.
No, I don't think so. I think it'd send him a message. I think it'd make an example and say, look, people can't go around doing these kind of things, whether they're a celebrity or not, whether they're a rapper or anything else. Just because you weren't caught at the time doesn't mean you can't go to prison for a spell.
I agree. And you know what? I would believe in this apology a lot more if he did serve some time, but maybe that's just me. It's like if he came back and he said, I served my time. While I was serving my time, I went to therapy. I went to God. I don't know about you, Gavin. I'd feel better about that.
That'd be a start. I mean, again, going back to the victim here, what has he done to put things right for her?
Oh, for sure.
Has he approached her and said, look, can you forgive me for what I've done? Because this is something that if he'd have come onto the camera and said, look, I've approached Cassie, I've asked her for forgiveness.
In fairness, she did get a check.
All right. Okay. She got a bit more than a check, but
so, no, I'm saying, I believe he settled it the next day. So I believe money exchanged hands. So, albeit not an apology to her, he did give her money, but I'd like to see a little bit of time.
And so ask yourself, who is this apology actually for? Is it for her, for Cassie? Is it for the general public, or is it for him so he stops being harassed over something he's actually done that he denied and then got caught doing?
I think it's an apology to the public, sort of, and himself. I feel like it's a reputation saver or attempt.
Yeah, that's what I
So
would imagine. Yeah.
And let's go back and let's look at that original statement here. He's very worried about his reputation and his legacy. It says it right there. And he does say looking for a quick payday. Now, he has paid, he has settled with people. I'm going to be careful with my wording. Apparently, he has settled with different people. Some would call that a payoff, but that's an opinion. And let's break down this statement, though, because the statement is very interesting. You do know that I've been testing some different AI and for statement analysis, and I've been clear, not on the first video, but I've been clear later that I am not saying that AI is the be-all, end-all. AI is a convenient way to look at the words, run it through the parser, and see if anything pops up, and then an expert like yourself can go into it more deeply. And there was a very interesting result running AI on that statement. And it's very interesting because in that statement, he was talking about, I did not do these alleged acts, what have you. It came back as 99% truthful, which is the most truthful statement I've ever seen run through this application.
Yeah.
That was surprising. Now, what was flagged by the AI, even that is not necessarily a big deal. In the statement analysis circles, and Gavin, you can confirm this or not, but Mark McClish, who actually trademarked the term statement analysis, does not like did not, have not, I will, in that manner. Peter Hyatt has pointed out that people have issues with that, but it's not necessarily a big deal if they didn't say didn't. Some people will adamantly say did not. Depends on their background, depends on how they speak. It is not necessarily a bad denial. I think you have an opinion on how to parse the whole contraction versus spilling
That's it.
out.
So for me, I mean, I've learned it both ways. I've read Peter Hyatt's book. I did the training under Avignon Sapir, and I've taken all of it on board. And what I tend to find is when I'm looking at contractions, when it's did or didn't, did not or didn't, the only time for me that it raises a major red flag is if it changes in the middle of, say, 3 sentences, like we were discussing earlier, where I say something along the lines of, Eric, I didn't eat your cookies, I did not eat your chips, and I didn't eat your candy. So in the middle of that, there's a change. And you would say, well, why not? Why is that change? Did he, why is 1 and 3 different to number 2? And that's where I would put a red flag and say something there doesn't marry up, it's not congruent, and I'd want to investigate that further.
What about, as another example, just for clarification, what about if I said, I didn't eat your, what are the options here? Cookies, chips, and
candy.
What was the third one? Okay. What if I said, I didn't eat your cookies, chips, or candy, and I do not appreciate you accusing me of it?
See, again, there, it's two different. I mean, obviously, they're all different sentences, but it's a different subject, as it works. One is defending you, as in saying, I didn't do this. The other one is then turning around and saying, and I don't appreciate you accusing me of it. So one is focused on what you didn't do. The other is focused on me and my accusation. So again, wouldn't be too concerned with that. But if it was in a list form and it's not congruent, that's where I'd be more concerned.
Okay, I just wanted that for clarification because I thought that might be different, but there you go. Now, in this, he consistently, I don't think he contracted anywhere.
Right. Okay. No, it doesn't look like it.
I did not, I will. I don't see any contractions at all in this statement.
I didn't see any in there, which I think you have a theory on the reason behind that.
Well, I have 2 theories on this. But number one, I would say they're meaningless now because it's consistent throughout the way he's speaking or the way it's written. I have, I did, did not, I will. So no contractions, toss it out. You can almost be at 100% on truth. My thought is, because obviously this doesn't seem to match reality. Obviously, this guy did do at least one thing, and he's apologized for it. Now, I'm going to go scare quotes. How can these two things work? How can he be, is statement analysis dead? Is statement analysis worthless? Or is there another possible reason that we have such a major contradiction? One reason could be, did a publicist write the Instagram post? Many, many stars have public relations people and teams and even social media handlers that post, but could that statement have been written for him to address the public and then placed on his Instagram by himself or a social media manager? Would that cause a discrepancy?
Without doubt, because it's been written by somebody else. It's been written by somebody who is innocent, who has no guilt. So therefore, there is not going to be leakage of guilt within the statement. I would say, in my opinion, that it's highly likely that this was written for him by somebody else, like a PR expert, mainly as well because of the fact that this isn't just a tweet that he's typed in quickly on his phone or his laptop. This isn't just a status that he's put on social media that's just been a kind of, I'm fed up of being accused of stuff. This was a professionally done picture that was put out in as an actual image that was posted. Somebody has taken the time to craft this. It's not something that's just happened where he's got up one morning and gone, I'm fed up, I'm going to say my piece. And that's why I think it's been done by some kind of a PR expert or something more so than something he's tried to put together quickly.
Okay, and the other reason that I came up with, like I said, there was two, because I always try to think of an excuse. Why is this going on? Is it possible that he doesn't, I hate to say he's sociopathic, but is it possible that he literally doesn't consider what he did to her as having anything to do with his reputation, his music, and his legacy?
It's possible, and I remember when we were looking at it that he's on about this whole kind of all these things I've been accused of, and yet this is one isolated incident. So again, this is kind of you're looking at the distancing thing and an overall, like an overarching theme of I've been accused of so much over how long, however many months, years, whatever it's been going on. And if he sees that as I've hardly done any of these things, maybe yes, I maybe did this with Cassie or did that here and there, but the majority of it I haven't, then that would kind of give him a little bit of a buyout in his mind. So that would be another possibility.
Well, and also it's not a universal all. What I'm saying is that if you got drunk and went home and did something bad, but you've been accused now of stealing a car, robbing a bank, mugging 5 people, and you said, I didn't do any of those terrible things I'm accused of, you're only addressing half of the things that you're accused of. Does that could it be that kind of thing where, like we're doing a selective denial where, well, I didn't do that. Well, what about this? Well, I didn't do that, and that.
Exactly, yeah. And this kind of thing, it does happen a lot. If you're accused of 5 and you've done one of them and not the other 4, people will turn around and go, I've not done any of that stuff, because they're not even counting the 5th, accusation or whatever. So it could be something along those lines. And again, because of this singular isolated incident with Cassie, maybe he doesn't even count that. Maybe that's something that is more in his personal life, and he thought it was been and gone, and that would never come to light again. In his mind, he may have completely written it off the existence of it ever happening.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm saying about sociopathic aspect of like, whatever. I mean, he distanced it there. Now, you told me ahead of time that you did want to cover, though, this one little sentence.
Yeah, so I want to, because we did this bit here where it says, I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. Well, that wasn't a group of things. It was one thing that, we saw the video to. So maybe that separates.
Right. Well, but they are separate. Yeah. This is December, and he is accused of many things. Like I said, he's accused of being another Epstein. So the things that went down with Epstein.
Yeah. So
and he may separate the Epstein type of things with his personal life, if you will. I mean, obviously they're all evil, and I'm not trying to excuse anything. I'm trying to figure out how somebody can come across and be like, what?
Yeah. So and again, you could say to somebody, well, have you ever committed a crime? And they go, no. And you say, well, so you've never been over 30 in a 30 zone in your car? And they go, well, yeah, but I don't really count that. So it's down to what they, psychologically count as, criminal activity. So, but yeah, this is the line, that one there that you've just enlarged. Thank you, Eric. I was curious with this, and this is where AI has a disadvantage to the human element, because AI can work on what's there, but it can't work on what's not there. So you can see from his statement here, it says, I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Now, what's not there is the word innocence. That's what's missing. He's not saying, I'm innocent of this. I haven't done anything. There's no hard denial of a specific act. He's saying, I will fight for the truth. Well, his truth, their truth, whose truth, in a day and age now where we live, where truth is very loosely kind of separated from facts, unfortunately, there are arguments that you can have your truth and I can have mine. So that it's very kind of vague. Very much like his apology. So he's fighting for his name, his family, and his truth. Well, I don't know what's going on with his family, but I know that there's nothing there that's saying I'm innocent of what I've been accused of.
Now, some would argue that he did say that he did not do any of these awful things, that was his denial. But you're saying that that's not the strongest denial. It's not quite clear. And then the truth doesn't do it. So you're saying it's kind of a little vague. And so he's sort of, it sounds like, not exactly, but it's better than I would never do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, if he'd have said something along the lines of, look, I'm completely innocent, I've got nothing to hide, and I will prove my innocence, that would have probably been more kind of what I would expect to see than somebody who's saying, oh, don't worry, you'll find out the truth, or I will fight for the truth. So,
but I will give one to his favor too. So this is again, this is not completely clear, because when he said, I did not do any of the, there is some strength in that, because all you have to do is prove one thing.
Yeah.
Which, well, so that's the question of the awful things, because sometimes we really like that in a denial. If you say, as a matter of fact, we're going to be covering Kevin Spacey, and in at least one of his answers, he did say, no, I did not do that. I did not do something like that. Like, I did not do a single part of the, it's like, well, wait a minute. If you're saying A, B, C, D, and no, and that could very easily, somebody can go, well, yeah, here you go, right there. You're done. That is a strengthener. But you know what, Kevin? It's not up to you and me. It's up to all of you. What do you think? Do you believe in his apology? And what do you think about this statement? Especially now that we have an incident that in fact did happen. Please let us know in the comments. I want to hear from you, and I want to learn from you. So tell us what you think. Tell us where we went wrong. Tell us where we went right. We definitely want to learn from you and keep this conversation going. So until next time, Gavin and I thank you very much.
Thank you.